6 years post-Brexit, they have decided that, yes, they're returning to the UK. They are storming the beaches of Sussex.
I think they're even broker than we originally thought or imagined. The fact that they're crawling back this fast, I think that...
Do you want them to return? 89% of you say no.
6 years ago, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah Winfrey and told the world exactly why they were leaving.
Big financial problems. As I mentioned, the Netflix deal has gone away.
Harry backed her up. They said the institution hadn't protected them. They said they needed out permanently on their own terms. Now they're moving back, not for a visit.
In days since I broke this front page, revealing Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were to Megxit, the most unhappy royal homecoming in history.
Not for one royal engagement and a flight home. Archie and Lilibet are enrolled in British schools for September. A private non-royal home outside London is already secured, and King Charles, according to reports, only found out about all of this a matter of days before it became public.
Have slapped down their Uno reverse card. 6 years post-Brexit, they have decided that, yes, they're returning to the UK. They are storming the beaches of Sussex. They are setting up house, sending their kids to school.
That last detail is the one worth sitting with, because Harry and Meghan reportedly saw Charles and Camilla face-to-face in July at Highgrove, weeks before this story broke. And by every account, the return wasn't mentioned once, not a hint.
Of the news on Sunday. It was not discussed when the Sussexes visited him at Highgrove in July. It is understood, which seems to me...
They sat down for tea with the king and walked out without saying a word about a move that had clearly been in motion for months. You don't enroll 2 kids in a British school in a couple of weeks. That takes paperwork, planning, time.
Now, not only are they coming, but this is clearly, it must have been planned far in advance. It is being said here that they will begin school there this fall, this September. That's quick. That's a couple weeks. You can't just start a school willy-nilly. This must have been in the plan.
So whatever was actually said at that table, it doesn't appear to have included the full picture, at least not based on what came out days later, which makes the first question of this story pretty simple. If this is really about family, why keep the family in the dark?
Dan, this is honestly the worst case scenario for the British monarchy. It would be one thing if they had moved to Portugal and Harry was coming more, but this truly is the worst case because this is them firmly setting up their alternative royal court in the UK. They are going to force in their half in, half out. And I think looking back at this meeting with Charles and them not telling him, I think they were gauging how he would react to something like this, trying to figure out how soft he would be. And they're clearly seeing weakness and they want to pounce because they know if they wait until William is king or if they do it too late, William can basically undo all their royal titles and everything, and the royalty is the only thing that's selling for them. So they desperately need to reestablish this. This will be an absolute nightmare for Catherine and William. It'll be a nightmare for the British monarchy.
Let's get the confirmed facts on the table first, because there's a lot of noise around this story and not all of it holds up. Harry, Meghan, and both kids are relocating to a private residence somewhere outside London. The exact location hasn't been disclosed, officially for privacy and security reasons. There is, as of now, no plan for either of them to resume official royal duties.
To continue work with his charities. The Daily Mail is reporting that no.
They won't be drawing on public funds. Palace sourcing describes their status as unchanged. Private citizens, non-working royals, exactly what it's been since 2020, which raises the obvious follow-up. If nothing about their actual role is changing, what's driving the timing? There's also the question of where exactly they're going to be living, because even that hasn't been confirmed. Some reporting points toward the Cotswolds. Other unverified reporting suggests something closer to Windsor, which would put them nearer Prince William and Princess Catherine's own home on the same estate.
This is that it's going to be in the Windsor area in Berkshire. It will be close, I suspect, to the Windsor estate. It could be London, it could be Windsor. It's likely to be somewhere in the southeast of England. If, of course, it was Windsor, it means that Harry will be neighbouring.
That second version hasn't been confirmed by any official source, so it shouldn't be treated as settled. But if it does turn out to be accurate, it would be a notable detail. Settling that close to a brother whose relationship with Harry, by most public accounts, still hasn't fully recovered since the memoir and the Netflix series.
For a 40 by 40 project, these people are perpetual quitters. And so, we can cheer them on all we want to regarding their future in the United Kingdom, but they don't have a very good track record when it comes to execution.
To understand that, you have to go back to what they promised when they left in the first place. In the official 2021 statement announcing their exit, Buckingham Palace made it clear the couple couldn't run a half-in, half-out version of royal life. Official duties on one hand, private commercial deals on the other.
In a statement released in 2021, following a 12-month review of their situation, Elizabeth II confirmed that the couple would not continue with the responsibilities and duties that come with a life of public service. She had made it clear that they could not maintain a half-in, half-out approach to royal duties, while also...
Harry and Meghan's response to that was a now famous line. "We can all live a life of service. Service is universal."
Fire, and it's being reversed. So we understand, based upon the reporting...
It was meant to sound like a graceful exit. In hindsight, it reads more like a threat they never followed through on. Because here's what actually happened next. They signed with Netflix. They signed with Spotify. Meghan launched a lifestyle brand. Harry published a memoir that took direct shots at his own family. They built an entire business on the idea that leaving the monarchy behind was not just possible, but better. Freedom over duty, independence over hierarchy. That was the pitch for 6 straight years.
As we've just heard, that they've been failures in the United States, and we all remember Oprah, and as you say quite correctly, the lies that was told. Then, of course, Harry and Meghan, their Netflix series, which was an enormous success for Netflix and which damned the royal family, came next. And, of course, as we all know, Spare, which was full of abysmally chosen, laughable items nonetheless.
So it's worth pausing on the fact that the thing they're doing right now, quietly reapproaching the very institution they said had nearly broken them, is the opposite of that pitch. Not officially rejoining it, not asking for a working role, but moving back into its orbit, onto its home turf, after telling the public for 6 years that this exact institution was the problem.
He still looks like a working royal. This looks like two people trying to kick the door down and force the half-in, half-out role. And while it might not be official under the British royal family, and King Charles, sources close to King Charles have even told American outlets that when he was told about their move back to the United Kingdom, he told them, well, there's going to be no changing.
Now here's where this stops looking like a simple, organic family decision. The Daily Telegraph and The Sun both published what they called world-exclusive reports within the same window on the same night, using strikingly similar language and nearly identical details.
To the United Kingdom. The story was briefed to the Daily Telegraph and broken at 10 p.m. at the same time.
Charles informed on Sunday kids enrolled for September, a non-royal home already secured. Untaub. Competing newspapers don't usually land on the exact same story in close to the same words at close to the same hour by pure coincidence. That pattern is generally what a coordinated briefing looks like, a story handed to more than one outlet at once, likely to shape how it's received. Nobody involved has confirmed that's what happened here. But it's the pattern royal reporters tend to flag when they see it. And if that reading is accurate, going to that much trouble to manage how a story lands would say something about how sensitive the real reasons behind it might be. 2 explanations keep surfacing for what's really driving this: money and the marriage. And the more you look at both, the more they start to tangle together in a way that makes "we just want to be closer to family" look thin. Start with the money because the numbers are hard to argue with. When Harry and Meghan left the UK in 2020, Harry was reportedly commanding close to $1 million per speaking engagement. That figure has apparently collapsed to somewhere around $50,000, with fewer bookings coming in at all.
Speaking engagements have been a disaster. He was earning $1 million per speech when they left the United Kingdom. It's gone down to $50,000 and the gigs are
Meghan's Netflix documentary about Girl Scout cookies opened in 446 theatres and was pulled down to 119 within a couple of weeks, a drop of roughly 75%. That's not the pattern of a film finding an audience. That's the pattern of a distributor cutting its losses.
Flop. And you only have to look at how many theaters they released it in and how many theaters they took away. They released it in 446. I think they dropped it to 119. It was a 75% drop. Sometimes.
Then there's As Ever, Meghan's lifestyle brand. The couple's own public statement about the move says Meghan will keep running as ever from the couple's international bases. That's it. No mention of new shows, no mention of the other entertainment projects that were supposedly still in development. For two people who left the royal family specifically to build financial independence through entertainment, leaving that detail out of your own press release isn't a small omission. It's an admission by silence.
It's only talking about As Ever. It doesn't seem like anything else is going on for Harry and Meghan. And I think this confirms something that I have been talking about and speculating about for a long time, which
even the housing situation doesn't line up cleanly, and this is a good example of a claim that hasn't been settled either way. Some reporting says the couple is holding on to the $11 million Montecito mansion, plus the Portugal property, plus whatever home they're now securing in the UK.
Say they're keeping the Montecito house, so I guess they'll use it as a base. Are they going to Airbnb it out? Can we Airbnb their home in Montecito? Oh my God, can you imagine? I would definitely do that for a weekend and make some content there. Or are they just going to leave it open? How can they afford that? How can they afford to keep...
Other reporting claims there's no realistic way they can run 3 international properties at once, and predicts Montecito is quietly headed for the market to help cover costs, including Harry's own outstanding legal bills.
No, they're not. No, they're not. There's no way that they can run that house in Montecito, which is bigger than they need, and it's only big because of Meghan's ego. They're not going to run a house in England.
Neither version has been confirmed by the couple directly, and both can't be fully accurate at the same time. When coverage of a couple's own finances can't agree on something this basic, that's at least worth treating as an open question rather than a settled fact. There's a smaller detail that fits the same pattern, and it's easy to miss if you're not paying close attention to Meghan's own marketing. In the weeks around this announcement, the volume of promotional emails coming out of As Ever noticeably increased, roughly matching the pace from the month before.
The amount of emails I'm getting is becoming excessive and annoying. I forgot.
That's not typically what a brand does when things are going well and demand is organic on its own, though there could be other explanations for the increase. A day or two before the story broke, Meghan also posted an unusually specific plug for one of the brand's teas, timed close enough to the announcement that some royal watchers have interpreted it as a sign she already knew what was coming. That interpretation hasn't been confirmed by anyone involved, and it could just as easily be a coincidence. Put all of that together and, if the reporting on the finances holds up, the return starts to look less like a homecoming and more like damage control.
Totally collapsed in America. You can't get around this. This was a desperation PR'd move.
I think they're even broker than we originally thought or imagined. The fact that they're crawling back this fast, I think that...
Not necessarily a step toward the royal family out of love. Possibly a step away from a business plan that quietly stopped working. But money isn't the whole picture here, because if this were purely financial, you'd expect the two of them to present a united front. Careful joint messaging, both fully aligned on the decision. That is not what's being described.
Meghan Markle stands for nothing because she said these people drove her to want to take her life, that they ruined her mental health, they treated her horribly, she was crying, they had to flee the country. Clearly everything was fine because now you're running back the second you need a little bit of dough, and PhD, Papa has dough. So they're going back to King Charles, and it's just like clockwork, it's textbook, everybody can see through it, it's so transparent. But the last thing I'll say, not to hog the floor, I don't think anyone in the UK should trust them again. I don't think Prince William will ever trust them again. I don't think Catherine. If King Charles wants to let his son back in his life, I understand he's the only parent. I get that. And King Charles, you know, we have some other criticisms of him as well. We love him, but we have some critiques as well with protecting the West. But I just think it's interesting that they're going crawling back now, but no one's going to trust them because they've done tell-all books, reality shows, docuseries, Oprah interviews, everything time and time again. And I just think past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior.
According to multiple reports, this wasn't necessarily a joint decision. Several sources describe it as Harry's call, made largely on his own.
This decision, and now Meghan is going to have to follow, because I think there is a problem with this as a couple. They are not in.
Though none of this has been independently confirmed by anyone in the couple's camp. Those same sources describe Meghan as reluctant, even resistant, to the idea of living in a country where her public reception has consistently run colder than anywhere in the US. If that reporting is accurate, it raises an obvious question. Why would she go along with something she apparently doesn't want? Here's where it gets uncomfortable, and where the caution flags need to go up. Around the same time this story broke, a separate unverified report claimed Meghan has been quietly shopping a post-divorce autobiography.
But when he reads in Vanity Fair, confirmation of a report that I first made, Pete Diner.
Nobody involved has confirmed the word divorce. This hasn't been independently verified by any major outlet, and it should be treated as exactly what it is. A single unconfirmed report, not an established fact. But it's the kind of theory some observers have floated to explain a decision this abrupt. If there were any truth to it, and if Harry were aware of it, that could explain a move onto UK soil, where custody arrangements would work differently than they would in California. But again, there's currently no public evidence proving that's actually what's happening. It's one possible read among several. There's a second theory about the marriage floating around too, and it points in almost the opposite direction. This version says Harry is the one who actually stands to be happier here, that California never suited him, that he's spent the last few years visibly adrift with no clear role or purpose, and that being back among old friends in a climate and culture he understands might finally give his life some structure it hasn't had in America.
The obvious answer, but I also think Harry will be happy in the United Kingdom. He's been completely lost over the last few years and lonely. It is Meghan that's going to be miserable and going to...
If that version is closer to the truth, then the tension isn't Harry escaping Meghan. It's Meghan being pulled somewhere she doesn't want to be for Harry's sake, one more time in a marriage that's already asked her to give up a lot. Either way you read it, both theories point at the same underlying problem. These two are not fully aligned on this move, and a couple that's completely in sync usually doesn't generate two competing explanations for why they're doing the thing they're doing. There's a practical layer to the custody theory worth spelling out too, purely as context, not as confirmation that any of this is happening. If a marriage were to break down, where the children are physically living at that point could matter enormously, legally and emotionally. A California-based split would put Meghan on more familiar ground in a state where she's lived for years with her own family nearby. A UK-based split would shift that balance, given Harry's family name, history and connections in the country. Nobody is claiming either of them has filed anything, and there's no public evidence this calculation is actually behind the timing. But it's the kind of factor that would matter if it ever came into play. Now let's go back to something that got buried under all of this: security. 18 months ago, Harry lost a legal battle over restoring his UK police protection. After that loss, he said, on record, that he couldn't see a world where he'd bring his wife and children back to Britain safely. Not someday. Not under the right circumstances.
How is it suddenly fine for you to live here? Because that interview that I played earlier, he said, I can never see a situation where I bring my kids.
He said he couldn't see it happening. So what changed? As of this announcement, nothing has been said publicly about restored protection. No new security arrangement has been confirmed by the palace or by Downing Street. The same risk Harry described as disqualifying 18 months ago hasn't been resolved in any way that's been made public. And yet the kids are enrolled in school, the house is already secured, and the family is expected in the country within days, not months. At minimum, based on what's been made public so far, those two statements are hard to fully reconcile. Either the danger Harry described back then wasn't as absolute as it sounded in the moment, or he's now bringing his children into a situation he previously said he couldn't accept. It's possible there's a private explanation nobody outside the family knows about. But on the public record alone, it's a contradiction worth noting rather than explaining away. There's also a timing theory that keeps coming up among royal commentators, even though nobody close to the family has confirmed it. King Charles is still undergoing cancer treatment. Once William eventually becomes king, he's widely expected to have far more authority than his father to limit titles and access for Harry's family.
I think that this is all about Harry and Meghan. Maybe they are worried about King Charles passing away. They are worried that Prince William, under a King William reign, will strip them of their titles and their identity.
If that's accurate, it would give Harry a narrowing window to re-establish some presence in the UK, while his father, rather than his brother, is still the one making the calls.
Yeah, but Harry knows time is running out, Richard. I've been saying for a long time, Harry knows that the window is closing because the moment that George comes of age, which is
To be clear, none of this has been stated outright by anyone close to the family. It's an inference, not a confirmed motive. But the timing of a sudden return, during a period when one relationship is still workable and the other is openly strained, is at least the kind of coincidence people are going to keep pointing at. And at least some of the public isn't quietly accepting the just family framing either. During one live broadcast covering the story as it broke, a running audience poll asked a simple question: do you want them to come back? 89% said no.
By the way, we have a live poll running and the results pretty significant. Do you want them to return? 89% of you say no.
That's an informal, self-selected poll from a single show's audience, not a national survey, so it shouldn't be read as a scientific measure of the whole country's opinion. But within that specific audience, it's a striking number, close to 9 out of every 10 respondents actively rejecting the idea before the couple has even landed. Online, the reactions split into a few repeating patterns. A lot of people went straight for the money angle, treating the timing almost like a punchline. Is this really about family, or is this just what happens once the entertainment money runs dry?
Samara Gill says Justin, Harry, and Meghan will return to Britain after seemingly exhausting the great California cash cow, Spotify, Netflix, Spirit, Oprah, Montecito. They monetized the royal exit. Now comes the cheapo royal return. Royally Heather said they're broke. That's all it is. Cleo says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced.
Others focused on the pattern of how the announcement itself was handled, calling it exactly the kind of sudden, tightly managed move this couple has made before, historically followed by more chaos than clarity. There wasn't much middle ground in the reaction. Almost nobody framed this as a simple, wholesome homecoming. There's one more coincidence worth putting on the table because timing tends to matter more than people give it credit for. This all broke on the same day Queen Camilla gave a personal interview about King Charles's ongoing cancer treatment. A story that, under normal circumstances, would have dominated the royal news cycle on its own. Instead, it got buried within hours.
Here's the situation. If this story did not break, today you and I would have had such a sweet conversation about Queen Camilla's revelations about King Charles's cancer. That to me is proof of what a distraction these two people are from the working royals, from the legitimate work that...
Whether that's an accident of scheduling or not isn't something anyone outside those rooms can actually confirm. But it's exactly the kind of detail that makes people ask whether the timing of this announcement was as spontaneous as it's being presented. And it isn't the only date on the calendar that lines up strangely well. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, has a book coming out next year, timed close to the 30th anniversary of Diana's death.
Is soon to have a book published or to write a book. And I, for one, cannot ever forget the image of Earl Spencer behind Diana's hearse with those two broken-hearted boys, as they were at the time, having lost.
A moment that's already guaranteed heavy media coverage regardless of what else is happening. Harry moving his family back onto British soil in the months leading up to that anniversary puts him back in the centre of exactly the kind of coverage his own mother's legacy tends to generate. None of this proves coordination between the two stories, but royal reporters have learned over the years that very little around this family happens without an eye on the calendar. And this wouldn't be the first time an anniversary got used to reset a narrative. So where does that leave things? Strip away the press release language and you're left with 3 threads that don't fully connect into one clean story. A return that, based on the reporting, was kept from the king himself until close to the last moment. even during a face-to-face visit weeks earlier. A financial picture that, across competing reports, doesn't hold together cleanly under any single version of events. And a marriage that, according to multiple unconfirmed reports, wasn't fully in agreement on any of this to begin with. If this was simply about wanting to be closer to family, the timeline would look more ordinary. Plan the move, tell the king early, let it unfold in the open. Instead, what's been reported is silence at Highgrove, months of quiet preparation nobody was told about, and a sudden, simultaneous announcement handed to two competing newspapers on the same night in nearly identical language.
Armageddon. I put the Telegraph story up and I said Armageddon. But having said that, it's clear that Meghan Markle, the last thing she wants to do is to return to the UK.
That's not typically how a simple family reunion gets handled. On the surface, at least, it looks more like a managed rollout, though nobody involved has said that's what this was, and it's fair to leave room for a more innocent explanation. Whatever's actually happening behind closed doors, a few things are reasonably well established. Harry and Meghan are coming back to a country where, based on that one live audience poll, sentiment among viewers was running close to 9-1 against them. They're coming back with a financial picture that, based on the reporting so far, doesn't fully add up. And they're coming back as a couple that multiple unconfirmed reports describe as not fully united on the decision itself, though none of that has been confirmed by Harry or Meghan directly. Whether this ends in a quiet reconciliation nobody expected, or in something closer to what the divorce rumours are hinting at, isn't something anyone outside that house actually knows right now. And it's worth being honest that most of this is still speculation.
A crash, isn't it? She's right, Lee.
It's a car crash, all right.
But if the pattern with this couple has held for the last 6 years, the simple explanation has rarely been the whole story. And there's no real reason to assume that changes the moment their plane lands.